Hey everyone, this is Stevie Richards. Welcome to episode 4 of the Big Fitness Show. My name, of course, is Stevie Richards, but for the purposes of the Big Fitness Show, I have to put Big in there. Big Stevie Cole, and joining me as always is Big Mike Behrens. How are you doing, Mike? You sound like you feel better this week.
Yes, sir. I am. Oh, I said, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got it. No, I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Yes, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling alive and ready to roll and ready to talk and welcome everybody to the show. Excited for today's conversation. And I'm just excited to talk to you, my friend. That's for sure.
We don't talk a whole lot in between episodes. Somebody had asked, "Oh, you guys must talk every day." We text back and forth, but we're always thinking about the show in between and what to do. But I also like the dynamic that we do a little pre-show, just catch up thing, actually talk about everything but the actual subject. But it's good that we can kind of react off of each other's kind of, you know, opinions and reactions to the subject we're talking about, which this week, since you're feeling better, you ready to overtrain?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have been overtraining because of it.
Yeah, I feel great. Now it's time to try to feel bad. So
Yeah, right.
that's the bane of my existence. So we're talking about overtraining today. This is something that we're probably going to have to revisit, like a lot of subjects we're going to talk about here on the Big Fitness Show. But overtraining can be construed as a very thin line between being lazy and then being foolish with your training, and that's kind of what we're going to talk through today, or at least try to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that it's an easy scapegoat for people to use sometimes of like, oh, I'm overtrained. I got to take a break. But there's also legitimacy to the fact that you could be overtrained if you're not taking the time to recover and you're not taking the time to fuel yourself and all that kind of stuff. So it like it's kind of a polarizing thing. If you look in the fitness space, people have very strong opinions about overtraining, depending on who you are. Some people will say, oh, that's a bunch of BS. You're not overtraining at all. You're just being lazy or you're not wanting to work hard. But then some people will be like, no, legitimately, the science shows that you're overtraining right now and you need to take a break. And so I think there's lots that we can talk about, and we'll share some of our experiences with it today and some of the things that we've heard from other people. And I think it's a good conversation to at least try to debunk some of the myths that are out there about overtraining.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this, but I will say too that there's sometimes things that are emotionally attached to overtraining, and that's what I'm going to kind of speak on when we get into kind of talking about our experiences with that type of thing, whether it be with ourselves or people, because you've dealt with a lot of people that have owned CrossFit gyms, people that have gone to their clientele with X Endurance, obviously, is tied in with that. So I'm sure you've had that discussion, since recovery is a major factor, if not the only factor that matters if you're overtraining. Those two things kind of go hand in hand with each other.
Sure, for sure, for sure. And I think when you're figuring out overtraining, if you and understanding if you're overtrained, it's understanding what the symptoms are of the overtraining and what that looks like and how that feels for you. And then I've had countless conversations about people feeling like they can't go anymore. They can't push anymore. They get halfway through a workout and they're just dead because they're pushing too hard. And, in the CrossFit space, people go to the gym every single day and it's constantly varied activity. And so they're working different muscles, but a new person into the CrossFit world or a new person to training in general will push and push and push and push, but maybe they don't know what to do on the back end to help with the recovery so that they can continue to push. Like I don't know that if you're recovering properly and you're fueling properly and you're doing all of the things on the back end, that you could overtrain to a certain extent, because your body's going to adapt and it's going to get to that point. But if you're not doing these things, then overtraining is a definite issue that people are going to run into for sure. But I think it's knowing what to look for. And that might be a good place for us to start is like, well, what does that look like if I feel overtrained, what am I feeling? Like, how does that look for me?
I have a little poll to take right now. I'm going to ask everybody out there. Maybe we'll make it the Spotify poll. By the way, there are polls on Spotify, and we actually did do one last week. I haven't checked it before this episode, but I'll try to take a look at it during the episode. Who has a worse back? A CrossFitter after 31 years or me after 31 years?
You.
Yeah, that takes a lot of work. little
It's-
spinal humor there. We're talking about me possibly needing back surgery in the near future. So, you know, if I want that to
yeah,
happen, I'll just do more CrossFit. That'll
there you
start I'm sure that's the first time you ever heard that about people
go.
breaking their spines. But there's an element to that because CrossFit does kind of resemble pro wrestling in a way. There is some impact. There's pushing your body. There's a lot to that. Of course, we're going to talk about our experiences because it's not just the workout itself, it's the environmental stuff. In our case, of years and years of wrestling, travel, hotel rooms, rental cars, the food we try to get at 1, 2 a.m. Then you're talking about time zones lumped in with all that stuff. And you can have the easiest workout in the world, but your body's not recovering because of external factors that are all around you day in and day out.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a factor that comes into it. And the training piece, you can easily overtrain if you're not recovering and not factoring in all of the things that are going on in your life on a day-to-day basis with the fueling and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely an issue that people need to understand what to look for and how to address it and move forward with it. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know where I was going to go with that.
This is going to spill over into probably another episode we'll do in the future, but a lot of, we're going to talk about social media, especially fitness influencers and the kind of false expectations it might put on general civilians, let's call it, people looking at these people, but especially movie stars, over the years. Cause I suffer from the Rocky training montage syndrome, Rocky training for his fight. And I'm like, wow. And you try to emulate that, but not realizing that there's quote external factors that are making celebrities. I watched them. I'm like, these people are training 4 or 5 hours a day, almost twice a day, chicken, rice, and broccoli. Give me a break. But they're generally overtraining for the part, going into adrenal fatigue and their metabolism being completely destroyed. Right. Even if they weren't doing anything that they might be kind of accused or the eye test says they might be doing, you're completely destroying your body and it's hard to get that back. Wrestling kind of is that way, or, even eliminating the external, supplements that you can take. Wrestling was something that is absolutely unhealthy for your spine, just if you were taking bumps.
Sure.
So then you're going to do hip hinging movements when you're taking ass bumps or back bumps or bumps on the floor, or even running the ropes has an effect, until you get even with experience. If I was to run the ropes right now, Mike, and you got bit a little bit going out in that battle royal, but if I were to run the ropes right now, I would have to toughen my spine, my side, and everything up. It would bruise. So
Sure.
that's also taking a toll on your muscles, your blood flow, all these things. So we're going to break it down granularly, but I will kind of at least give my personal experience because I'm way more guilty of overtraining and repeatedly overtraining. It's gotten better. Thank God for
Yeah.
my wife.
Sure.
Protect me from myself, but it's
Sure.
gotten a lot better now. But there was a long, many years where I mean, we're talking about it like 2 times a day, every day, stuff like that, just not being smart. But
Sure.
emotionally, and we're kind of getting into it, emotionally, I had no control over my life anywhere else.
Mm,
And wrestling, you don't have any control anyway. And it's very hit or miss, hot or cold, booked a lot, not booked a lot of stress. But when you know that there's cameras there and you go out there and you have the pressure and you know that a good bit of the guys have extra advantages that you don't because you're not doing the same supplements that they are,
hmm Yeah.
and then you have to work harder in my mind. But
Totally.
that's where in wrestling I fostered a lot of just worse than bad, terrible habits that were not very healthy. Even carb depleting, even not eating a lot of food on the road, just bars and shakes, doing all sorts of crazy stuff to look good for TV.
Sure.
Probably my insides were just falling apart.
Sure.
But that's just a
Sure.
little preview of where I'm coming from because my overtraining is strictly from an emotional and, a point of insecurity.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say yours is definitely all like a psychological thing of like, you just feel like you have to overtrain. You have to push yourself to that point because of the pressure that was coming with it. So there's definitely an element to that as well that people can fall into, because what you see, and like for yours, the perception is you had to work twice as hard because you didn't have the special bonus coming in with your supplements. Right. And so it was that performance piece of it. And then what we see on social media, and we see people don't really post about their recovery. They don't post about their sleep. They don't post about that piece of it. They just show, oh, I'm killing it in the gym today, and I worked out 6 times today, and I did all this kind of stuff. And so there is a definite mental aspect to overtraining that you have to be aware of, and you can fall into real easy, especially for a newer person that looks at overtraining, or looks at any type of training, and you're getting into a training routine. You see what people are doing on social media, see what influencers are doing, things like that. Everybody likes to glorify the workout and show the workout and put together their training montages and do all these things. But not as many influencers will teach you how to properly recover and properly fuel yourself so that your body can actually recover during those processes. So it's about performing better, but you also got to learn how to recover in the process. So for a newer person, the mental aspect of this, feeling the weight, feeling the pressure, can be tough. It really can be tough. You just have to be aware of what it was. So when was it for you that clicked and made a difference in that mental piece of like, you know what, I don't have to overtrain all the time? Or do you still struggle with it?
I feel like I need to sit back on that chair and lay down and have you be my psychologist or something. Uh, well, I'll tell you this. From a mental and emotional aspect or viewpoint of that, I think let's just talk logistically. Turning 51, turning 50 even made me realize that, like we talked about before, risk versus reward. What am I doing? And also my wrestling career slowing down and just kind of ending from an active in-ring type of thing, just naturally trailing off rather than just suddenly not being able to do it and getting injured. It was kind of like the fitness space and other projects like this show pulled me away from that. So if anything, I had to just redirect. For example, we work out early in the morning, both me and my wife. So, well, if she's listening, my wife and I gonna have good grammar. But that afternoon, I guess, malaise or kind of like restlessness that would set in around 12 or 1, maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I'm like, well, let me just get some afternoon cardio in or something, or do the boxing or do something to fill in the time before my wife comes home. I don't
Mm.
want to just sit there. I like playing video games, but I can't sit there and do that for an hour. I play one game of Madden and do whatever. But now it's like, okay, I'm going to time manage better. What I do enjoy is the actual working out. So I don't want to sacrifice that. So my workout in the morning is actually longer,
Mm.
and I get to enjoy it, savor it, go through it. It's very early in the morning. Obviously, nobody's up. My wife is there. That's the only company that I have, but we're kind of able to feel like this is our domain and it's just us in the world. So I get to enjoy that. And that's my mind right too. And then the afternoon is the morning too, in some ways, later in the morning, but I try to block it out in the afternoon where all the business stuff happens. If I have to have a Zoom call, if I have to do, this show here is recorded in the morning, but the afternoon is, let me get 1 to 2 hours to dedicate to my business, whether it's
Mm.
video editing, watching tutorials, following along, trying to do better thumbnails, trying to figure out some kind of back end thing. And before I know it, my wife's ready to come home. I shut down the office for the night and I go back and I enjoy my time. I think that's what I didn't know was I was looking at it all emotionally, but I could get all my emotions out with a longer session in the morning. And then the exercises and the training and the workouts for my mind, my discipline, my business. Now it feels much more natural that I can shift gears. We're gonna actually gonna have an episode on fad diets. Week is it next week?
Yeah.
Next week. So episode 5 is gonna be fad diets. And I finally at 51 feel like I have my nutrition. I won't even say diet,
Mm,
my nutrition down. And that's what we're going to talk about next week is both of our journeys to find have we gotten there yet or not? Because I wasn't eating either. If you're not eating and you're not taking in, like you were talking about that fuel, the fuel 5 plus or
yeah.
did I butcher the name?
No, just Fuel 5 Plus. Yeah, you got
Okay.
it.
That stuff I used to be so, and I'm just saying that because I used to be so scared of carbs and scared
Yeah,
of fruit and scared of everything that wasn't carb, because I was so used to carb depleting. That's what also mentally and emotionally almost made me like I don't know if it's bulimic or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've never really told anybody outside my wife. So this is like people hearing it for the first time. It created a real mental problem for me because I was afraid of food. Oh, I embrace fasting because if you fat, you hear all this different stuff about cellular regeneration. But my body was just wasting away, and I became skinny fat, which made me incredibly insecure and more upset, and made me want to train more. It was just
sure.
goofy. So, am I there yet? Long story short, no. But as long as I fill that afternoon up with a different category of a mental workout or a spiritual workout, that's the type of stuff that can keep me out of that gym in
Mhm.
the afternoon hours. What
Man,
about you?
thanks for sharing that. I know you probably don't talk about that mental aspect of it very often, and I think that you know, just for people listening, to hear someone in your position to just open up about that. I appreciate you sharing that, dude, for sure. Thank you. To answer your question for me,
A hug right here.
no, I mean it's stuff like that, like uh on a different level to derail us for just a second. Like men don't share and aren't open about that kind of stuff very often. And in a position like you're in, having some celebrity behind you, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to open up about that kind of stuff. So it's I appreciate it, and I hope everybody listening and watching appreciates it as well, because it's not easy for someone to do that. And anyone, let alone a position that we're in with this. So, okay, back on track. So, as far as me with mental training or the overtraining idea and the stresses about it, I to go into the mental piece of it. There's been times where I felt like I had to train all the time. But I would go a different route. Instead of like doing it, I would get hard on myself in the process of like, oh, I didn't do it. Right. Like I wouldn't go do it and be like, oh, I'm not training enough. So then I would just beat myself up, but wouldn't take the time because uh in the world of professional wrestling, I was just an indie guy and never really traveled a lot or got to do much in that regard. So I always had a full-time job and was always, focused on that, and had a girlfriend or whatever at the time. And now I have a wife and kids and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm kind of not allowed to have the extra time to go do it. I'm like you, I got to get up and I train at 4:40. I get up at 4:30, 4:40 every day, work out in the mornings before the house is awake. The kids get up at 6:45, something like that. And I'd get done before then. So that's when I have to make my window for training. Now I push it really freaking hard in that time. And I feel like I hit my training for the day, and I don't worry about that. But where I end up feeling some of the symptoms of overtraining is my recovery. Because as much as uh I know that sleep is important, I know that nutrition is important, sometimes I allow myself to get so hyper focused on the work that I have to do for the day that I will let my nutrition completely fall by the wayside, or I'll grab this quick little thing that's not going to fuel me properly. So I'm guilty of that a lot. And then the sleep is the biggest piece, because I get up early in the morning, and I have 3 children that stay up until 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. And then I got to have some time with my wife at some point, so then I don't end up going to bed until 10:30, 11, sometimes 11:30. And then 4:30 in the morning comes pretty quick when you go to bed at 11 o'clock at night. So for me, that's where I end up getting most of my feelings of overtraining, is that I don't take enough time to recover on a consistent basis. You know, there's times where I'll be pretty good about it, but for the most part, I'm not great about the recovery aspect, which leads to me feeling drained or not as strong or stuff like that.
Have you with doing that and the buildup, because it's cumulative, you know, because you're
Sure.
missing that. They say 8 hours, your average maybe 5, 6 if you're lucky. With that over time, do you ever feel like that you're on the verge of an injury, or do you feel like your focus, because that's dangerous if you lose your focus and you do more powerlifting type of movements and compound movements that require a great deal of focus from your feet all the way up to your
Sure.
head. So if
Sure.
you miss a form on one of those, that can knock you out for a few weeks or months. Do you
Sure.
ever feel like you're getting into that point you have to kind of stop? Well, wait a minute. I'm getting sloppy because I'm tired. Need to pull it back a little bit.
Sometimes in the mornings I can tell if I didn't sleep very good the night before. Like my kids are 3, 6, and 9. So like they're still young. And my 3-year-old will still get up in the middle of the night sometimes. And sometimes even the 6 and 9-year-old will get up in the middle of the night. And they usually come to me and I'll get up with them. And so on a night where I don't get much sleep, I definitely feel it the next morning where I'm just tired, but I still want to push hard in the workouts. And if I'm doing heavy squats or something like that, like I got to be cognizant of my back in that position, because my back is a little, I've tight hips. My hips are tight all the time, which then leads to a stiff lower back. And so like it's when I'm doing those movements, I can find myself pushing too hard. I'm not strong. I'm not feeling strong because my body's just drained and I didn't recover. So yeah, I haven't, well, yeah, I have. I mean, I definitely have tweaked my back a ton from just being too tired, pushing too hard. And then I'm laid up for a day or two before I can't lift with my back. I can't do anything with my back. I'll just do some arms or something like that, or ride my bike or whatever. So yeah, it definitely affects it. And it's the nights where like, yeah, it's the nights where I just don't get any sleep that I just feel tired. And so I push too hard. Yeah.
Well, that's the other part of it. Like we talk about overtraining. I'm not trying to kind of, I don't know, justify it in a way, but because of all the injuries I've had, and that's the, you know, the good segue with the stiff back and everything, because of all my injuries in wrestling and throughout the years and everything, and still fighting back, a lower back injury, just trying to figure that out. To me, that loosens my body up. It gets the blood flowing. And I'm not necessarily saying I have to lift every day. For example, when my back hurts, I do shoulders and arms. I do it in that, like you saw on the Instagram reel, kind of like a round. And I
Sure.
said to my wife the other day, I go, man, I'm going to have the best looking shoulders and arms and the most screwed up back ever all at once. I'm going to be the most uh, aesthetically pleasing looking person with no back and whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I did. To me, it's more I shifted, and that's why the bands were very important for me, because
Mm,
that's why I recommend it. I'm not just saying because I have a program, bands and body weight. And we talked about home gym versus garage gym and just looking at YouTube or doing it. Bands and body weight are going to be your ticket to avoiding any further injuries and possibly even healing the current ones to a certain degree, because joint impact on every point, like you're talking about the hips. You
mhm.
know, you can do you can do wall squats and
Sure.
eliminate that hinging and do all that stuff and apply isometrics. So it was very important for me because I was still on TV every week and always, and every wrestler is hurt. When you're watching
Sure.
a show, indie show, TV, pay-per-view, fights, whatever physical thing, football, everybody's hurt at a certain
Sure.
point during the tour or during the season. So, but you still have to look TV ready. So the bands and bodyweight stuff, it just to me spoke to me. And then when that happened, and I shifted over my training around 2000, 2002, it became physical therapy. But that was the gateway, in my opinion. It was mostly good, mostly reward, but the risk was, oh, okay, well, if this is physical therapy, the more I do it, the better
Mm,
I'm going to feel,
sure.
because I'm strengthening my body with that. But we all learn. I mean, dude, we were training in our 20s and we were getting in shape by accident. We didn't
Sure.
really, we are just lifting and doing our bro science or bro split or
Yeah.
3 full bodies a week. And no matter what you do at that age, you're going to have a net positive effect. At least that's what I've experienced. But when
Sure.
you're in the 40s and 50s and above, the more training can actually set you way back with
Sure.
that. So I'm learning. I mean, this whole show, and I think you can concur with this. This whole show is not coming to people as two experts talking,
Sure.
two guys that are still trying to figure out their fitness journeys and just passing along,
Yeah.
hopefully, whatever mistakes we made that people don't have to duplicate.
Yeah. Definitely concur with that, because it's still a process to figure it out. And I think, with the overtraining idea, I do believe that there is this idea that the ability to get to the point where you bulletproof yourself against overtraining, but you have to get to that level. Like, there's people that are out, running marathons every day. There's people that train to that level, and they're pushing themselves. There's a guy, Cameron Haynes, like, he runs a marathon every single day. And so the overtraining conversation, well, how's a guy like that able to do that? Because it's been a progression this whole time. And I guarantee you that he's taking his recovery very important as well, right? So getting adequate sleep, getting adequate fuel for your body, so that you've trained yourself to the point where overtraining becomes a non-existent thing. And I believe that's possible. I mean, we brought up CrossFitters. There's CrossFitters that all they do every single day is train every single day. And bad CrossFit is bad CrossFit is bad CrossFit. If you're going to get whatever, bad CrossFit sucks, but good CrossFit and good form, good technique, good training, good recovery. That is one thing that I admire so much about the elite level athletes in the CrossFit space, is they take it so seriously as a full-time job, that their training is 100% on point all the time. Their recovery is 100% on point all the time. And their nutrition is 100% on point all the time. So the overtraining for someone like that, it's not as much of an issue, because they're doing all of the other things to support the training that they're doing. But for the average person, for me and you, for the person listening to this, like, it's very easy to fall into that overtraining, because I think it goes back to, we're not fueling, we're not recovering. There's the mental pressure that comes with it. And then, just all the things that factor into it there, that make it so that overtraining is a super simple thing that we could fall into.
Yeah, and I would say too that when we talked about doing this episode, I did during the course. We decided yesterday, okay, we'll do it on overtraining, but I started to look and see, and I just like with your fitness journey, you don't realize the progress you made until you kind of look at it from a macro perspective. But I haven't done a second workout in probably, I'd say, like, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 weeks before Christmas.
Oh, that's great.
This is really, long time. I mean, it adds up, but because I've been filling that time in with the other stuff that I talked about and trying to fight, and not wrestling anymore is a big part of it, because even when I get like, it's so funny, even when my wife tells me she knows when I accept the booking, or I'm going for a signing or something, because I get this kind of, I go back into the crash dieting and crash workouts to prepare to look good for that 1 4-hour block of time.
Sure.
It's so weird, dude. It really is, because my diet and my training and all this stuff since that time when I cut out the second workout and I decided to make some adjustments. And like I said, we'll talk about it next week. My cholesterol was very high, and I was reading a book that Austin Idol gave me. We'll go into great detail next week about that. It started to turn around.
Sure.
And I can't even say I'm dieting, because I'm eating more than I was before,
Sure.
training a little bit less, the sessions longer, but feeling much more like everything's coming together. And sleep, we can do an episode about sleep, because that's a whole another thing of us sharing our experiences. But I feel like in this show, I will say this, even early on before we started doing this, I was thinking, okay, well, I got to get my own house in order, and I can't be talking about all this
Mhm.
stuff without telling them the flip side of everything. I can't talk about, yeah, they used to call me a cardio machine, but it was cool at the time, but I probably screwed my body up to a certain extent. I probably need to do a lot more yoga and stretching because my joints are, you know, any guy, any guy who's told, hey, can you proactively do yoga and stretch and really flow and do, yeah, every guy's going to be like, yeah. But when your back goes out, what's one of the first things you think?
Exactly.
Got to do some yoga. So I feel like I'm in a good place in this show and doing this with you and the people I've surrounded myself with uh, have really lent to pulling me out of that pit of
Sure.
training and kind of saying, oh, I don't have to feel like crap. I don't have to feel like I'm breaking my body down before a match or doing whatever. I don't have to worry about getting blown up in the ring anymore. That was a big deal. Has that ever been a big
Sure.
deal for you? You train like you're training to kill yourself cardio wise so you don't get blown up in the ring. And then I'm like, I get blown up in the ring anyway. It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. That's been an issue for me forever because cardio is not my friend. I don't like cardio. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan. I like to lift heavy weights. And if you want to do some, if you want to go have a bro session in the gym, that's what I like to do. I love doing like Olympic lifts and things like that too, but I want to go heavy. But if you want to go run or you want to like, I force myself to get on my air bike every day, just to get some level of cardio in it. But I just don't. And I think it goes back to feeling like I am uh out of shape because I haven't just pushed through that piece, like I'm not in good enough cardio shape. So when I do cardio, it's like that just a kick in the butt. Like I don't feel good because it's when I lift weights, I'm strong. I've always been strong. So I feel good because all right, cool. I'm strong, but I feel like pud when I do cardio and I can't breathe afterwards. So then it's just like, oh crap. So I don't want to do it.
Well, I could probably do an episode on that or multiple ones because there's all different types of cardio. There's dangers involved with the hits
Sure.
versus steady state and all this other stuff and the science of what burns more calories, which seems to change every 6 months.
Oh
So it
yeah.
might be very confusing. So, I mean, how do you feel? You're doing the challenge right now. You're doing the X Endurance Challenge. It's
Sure.
60 days.
Yep.
Okay. I think what day are you on right now?
Today's day 11 or 12, 11, 11.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you got a goal. You got a goal of dropping some weight that you want to do during the course of these 63 days. And obviously it's spread out to the point where you can lose, you're not going to lose a pound a week to lose 63. But if you end up doing that,
Sure.
then you're going to weigh less than me. I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. I
Uh,
wouldn't look good at that if I lost that much weight.
all right. Now you look like a big basketball player. Then that'd be something.
Yeah, I would look like you remember Manute Bol.
I
Remember him?
do
Like I would
remember
look like
Sean
that.
Bradley, the other
Yeah,
version.
either one. I'm not that tall, but that's how I would look.
So, but do you get, I guess with that 63 days doesn't give you any kind of pressure to lose the 1 to 2 pounds a week if it's the
Sure.
21-day fix. But do you ever get tempted even early on now to say, if I do more of this, I can accelerate that and really have some great goals, lose the weight and then get shredded. You start to talk yourself into, well, it's just going to be overtraining during the X and D thing. That's all.
Sure.
Okay. Have you ever found yourself like catching yourself like, oh shit, I can't, I got to stop that.
Yeah, I think about it all the time because I'm like in the 63 days, I want to get the best results that I can possibly get in the 63 days because
So
I'm
your
really
business is
focused.
attached to it too.
Well, yeah, because it's set an example. It's kind of like if I can do 63 days of the program and then I can then show people, hey, here were my results. You should try the 63 days too, right? Because X and D 63 is an actual thing that people can go through and really take control of their health and fitness over the course of 63 days. It's very structured, super simple to follow. But to me, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing it publicly and sharing about it on social media and stuff. I have to have results. I took some before pictures. They ain't great. Like I don't look good in my before pictures. So I have to push it. And that idea of coming in and doing a second workout every day, doing extra cardio, it comes up, but I always have to rein myself in. And in part two, because of my schedule, like it's hard for me to get that second workout in and to do that second workout. So it kind of saves me that overtraining because I don't have the time necessarily to do it because if I work out in the mornings, then the rest of the day is pretty much full with things I do for X Endurance or things with family, and family's my priority. So like I will rearrange my whole schedule to focus on my wife and my daughters, and that's given me the permission, so to speak, to not overtrain. But it definitely comes up of like, are you getting enough? Are you? So I'm just trying to focus in on the nutrition aspect, recovery aspect, as much as I'm trying to sleep as much as I can, which is hard. But yeah, it definitely comes up. Just not, I don't act on it very often.
Well, that's good. You already have the structure to do it. I had to kind of create and kind of like convince myself in my mind that I am busy in the afternoon, because it's very much easier for me to step away and go, yeah, I'm going to take an hour. I can take the call, but I can get on the elliptical and do
Sure.
some cardio while I'm on the call. And I've done that.
Yeah.
But
Was it a conscious choice for you in December when you said like I'm going to do a second, I'm not going to limit it second workouts? Like what was the thought? Were you like aware of like I'm overtraining too much, and so I'm going to do this to eliminate that, or did it just kind of happen? Like what was that decision like?
it was just kind of one of those things like, I think the weirdest part about it was, and it's very, very weird, like because I do so much cardio and I do other things. And um, I just thought to myself, am I actually getting to a point where I'm actually hurting my heart, hurting
Mm,
my cardiovascular system? Am I, breaking myself down to get sick more?
mm,
What's going on? And if I can't get it done in one workout and I'm not eating enough and I'm not sleeping enough, and we'll talk about that on an episode like about sleep, where I started taking some CBD products to stay asleep, because when I looked at it, not scientifically, but when I looked at it just from experience, I was waking up 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's the weird part. I would wake up at those times, not being able to fall back asleep. So I would want to go to the gym at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And my wife, to her credit, logically, because when, guys aren't, especially us, like, you can't tell me not to go to the
sure.
gym when I want to go to the gym, but you should tell me not to go to the gym at 12:30, 1 o'clock. So, I broke my body down. Yeah, I was doing that for about maybe a week, and I got really sick.
Mm,
And I had for the second time since I had surgery. I had facial surgery in WWE. For the second time since then, I took a day off from the gym and I didn't like it. So
mm,
it kind of all that cumulatively got into my mind. And then in December, I was just like, you know what? It's stupid to do this. It really is.
yeah,
And my wife was just there now and said, if I'm doing 2 workouts a day, and it might seem dramatic, but you don't know. If I'm doing 2 workouts a day, mostly based on cardio, but also some other kinds of workouts, and I'm straining my heart, then I could limit the amount of time that I'm here for my wife,
sure.
family.
Yeah.
So that's enough. That was enough to go, okay, stop being dumb. Got to
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah. I get you. No, that makes a lot of
There's many
sense. And
reasons, but like, am I really going to say, I mean, it took me 44 years to meet her and
sure.
find her. Am I
Sure.
going to take that time away for being egotistical and insecure and
Sure.
looking at social media? Let's not kid ourselves. Part of it is the Rocky training montage. It graduated into seeing people that we both know, wrestlers and fitness people and other people, just looking shredded and jacked and doing all this stuff. And all you think as a normal person is, they're just working harder than me. There's nothing more to it.
Mm,
Because
sure.
once you start to go into the steroids, the growth hormone, the drugs, and all that stuff, you start to make the excuses. That's what we can segue in a minute after I get your thoughts. But once you start doing that, you start making up excuses, and then you start having a lot of limiting beliefs about how much you can progress.
Sure.
Like I said in the beginning, it's a very thin line,
Sure.
but you can easily duck under the line or really red line over that line. So, I mean, what do you think about something like that? Like where it's just, it's tough. It's all, we're all being propagandized, if
Hmm.
that's even a word, into what we believe and feel is beauty, is fitness, is a good body, is shredded, is muscular. It's so confusing. I wouldn't even want to be starting a fitness journey today, but that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? We're trying
Sure.
trying to give them that guidance and say, hey, you're not crazy.
Sure.
This is all crazy.
Yeah.
You're not crazy.
No, I think there's a lot to that in the perception of what you see on social media and what's out there in on TV shows and movies and things and people looking great. Like people don't share the the bad side of it or the how they feel or how they like recover and things. And but then also too, like it's very easy to look at someone and not and assume that they are just working harder than you. So it goes back to the mental side of it. It's like, oh man, you know, and then as men, we feel less than. We don't feel good enough. We don't feel like we deserve it, or we don't feel like we're going to be good enough, or we can never reach that level of seeing someone on Instagram looking like $1 million, shredded, 8-pack abs, all that kind of stuff. And so then you could go to a place where you're like, or you could go to the opposite end of it. I think a lot of times people just, well, oh, that guy's on the gas, or that guy's taking steroids, or, you know, something like that. And then just write it off that he's not working hard. And I think that it's such a blurred line because you don't know. You just have to have a realistic point of view of what's possible. You don't know what people are actually doing. There's people out there that have never touched a steroid in their life and look like $1 million, but there's people that have been on steroids forever that look gigantic. You know what I mean? And so you just don't know. And so I think a lot of times people fall into that category of, well, I'm comparing myself to what I see here when they don't see any of the behind the scenes. There's that, I've heard the quote, like, don't compare your day to day to someone else's highlight reel on social media, right? Like nobody posts their crap on social media. Everybody posts the good stuff. And so I think we could fall into that category. And then to the mental piece of it, and probably similar to what you felt in when you were wrestling full time, is like, I got to keep up, you know, like I got to stay at this level because I got to be TV ready all the time. Well, you got to social media ready because it's such a screwed up world that we live in as far as the mental piece of things. You got to compare yourself to these people, and it's just a whole rabbit trail of stuff that you could go down. And I think it's knowing what to look for, knowing how to address it, knowing the realistic approach of what's there, but then also knowing your body and paying attention to your body so that you can address this. If you start going down the overtraining path, you can address it and know what to do to get yourself out of it, you know?
Yeah, you have to self-assess each and every day. You have to treat your body like it's a lab experiment. You have to see what works, what doesn't work, and not get discouraged, but actually from a process of elimination, say, okay, that didn't work. Let me move on. That's good that I know that. Here's the curveball though. What what worked for you in your 20s and 30s may not work in your 40s or 50s.
Sure.
What didn't work in your 20s, and it's such a cyclical type thing that this is good for you. Then you have all sorts of factors. But you know what? That's what keeps it exciting, not frustrating. And that's the difference.
Sure.
People get frustrated. The saying I like is comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at social media definitely will take your joy away if you're looking at that. But we're both happy to see. This is the thing. I don't want people to think that when I'm addressing all these symptoms of all these things for the overtraining over the years and decades, that I'm not happy or not satisfied or content where I am with life. They're two exclusive things separate from each other. My fitness journey, my training is no longer connected to my personal value or my
Sure.
personal worth. That's the trap of wrestling, entertainment, anything, social media. You start to attach your worth to likes and comments and
Yeah.
things like that. So they are mutually exclusive of each other. Well, by the way, all wrestlers are crazy. So if that doesn't make sense,
Sure.
it does to crazy wrestlers. But we're good where we are. But then there's the other side of it, Mike. And this is where, like I said, we're just trying to figure this out because overtraining and undertraining is kind of like that thin line, and you're not quite sure. But we also want to tell people that you should train hard.
Yeah.
Train hard and train smart at the same time. You should push yourself. Fitness journeys, no matter what you're doing, sports or anything in life, you have to progress. You have to make it harder. You have to test yourself. So, there's people that say, well, I don't want to overtrain, but they use that as
Excuse.
the trump card to say, I don't have to really train hard at all. There is a
Right.
difference.
Right. Total. And I completely agree with that. And you know, like I said a little bit ago, like I think you can train yourself to the point where overtraining is not an issue. And if your recovery's on point and your nutrition's on point, you can get to that because people, you know, we're seeing one good thing about social media is we are seeing some of the potential that human body has and what people can do on a daily basis and how much they work all the time and how much they put in and how hard they work. We do see those things and we see what's possible, right? And so for most people though, they just write that off as I can't do that. I do believe that if you push and you train properly and you do it in a progression so that you're training and getting progressively better, you're working harder, but then covering it up on or not covering it up, supporting it with proper nutrition, proper recovery, that overtraining piece from a physical like pain in your muscles, joints, all that kind of stuff. The physical overtraining you can eliminate. The mental overtraining, the mental part of it is a whole nother ball of wax. But I think if you train properly, recover properly, you can eventually get yourself to the point where the overtraining piece is not an issue, you know, if that makes any sense, what I just said.
Yeah, because most people that work out hard also are doing that. That's why next episode is going to be key after this one, because they are mixing it up as I have done many times in my life. They're mixing the overtraining up with an eating, let's not even say a diet, an eating plan that's
Sure.
not conducive for what they're trying to do. It's actually doing them more harm. Then you have the metabolic fatigue, the adrenal fatigue, you have everything is screwed up. And as
Yeah.
you get older, those are factors that are teetering on that fence that you really need to manage much more aggressively.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that's definitely something that we can address more next week, but the people don't realize how important of a role the nutrition has played because we've been pushed with the calories in, calorie out approach. And you got to eat 1,500 calories if you're my size, right? Like, and it's just not conducive to long-term sustainable growth. Will you get some results as far as weight loss or something like that quickly? Sure. But your body eventually is going to get to a point where you do open yourself up to the symptoms of overtraining, and then because you're not recovering, you're not fueling properly, and people will find, we can talk a little more about it next week, but the more you eat, the better you're going to feel as long as you're eating the good stuff and eating good foods because you're getting more calories so your body can actually fuel itself and recover and repair itself, you know.
So you're saying that basically I'm going to feel amazing if I go to a sushi buffet later today.
Yeah, dude. I
Well,
I
I'm eating it. I don't know about afterwards.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Next week with I know we're giving tons of previews for next week.
Yeah.
That was one principle, and I looked at it. I tried to make because I love eating food. I really do. In South Philly, Italian born and raised, all that stuff. Love pasta, love food, love Chinese buffets. I always liked that, especially when I was poor.
Sure.
You know, I'd go to the buffets with the freezer bag and just kind of take
Yep.
this. But when I look at it, like I really did. I used the fad diet. We're just touching on it. I'll take greater detail next week. I use those fad diets as an excuse to not portion control, to not
Oh
do it
yeah.
properly because
Sure.
I don't want to, yeah, whatever, and getting as much steak as I want on carnivore diet. It doesn't matter. Or keto,
Sure.
I can take tons of fat. And it just, they were cool at the time and it was great, but it was very much just not a sustainable thing for me. And I think
Sure.
that's the other thing with getting back to working out and overtraining. Don't worry about the 21-day fix. Don't worry about a 12-week program. Don't worry about the XND 63. You have to
Mhm.
be prepared. Once you say, I'm going to be working out for the rest of my life, you take an entirely different look at your fitness journey.
Right.
You're in no rush then. You're in no rush to get 2 a days in because after day 63, it still has to happen. What about after
Right.
that? And I
Right.
think that's the mindset people need to realize.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's the overtraining piece and the training is a lifelong journey. So if you just have that perspective, then you can realize, oh, I don't need to kill myself today. I can work out tomorrow and still get results and allow my body the time to recover. So yeah, if you can find that perspective, and when we think about it, like, what do we do, right? When we get in this overtraining piece, when we feel all these symptoms, when we think we're there, what can people do to alleviate that or to overcome the overtraining from a mental aspect, from a physical aspect? I think first thing is a perspective, having some perspective on the reality of what's going on. You don't need to train 4 times a day unless you're an elite level athlete of some sort. You don't need to train every single day, 4 times a day, right? And so what else do you think people can do to overcome it from a physical, mental, all the things to get past the overtraining symptoms and stuff?
Or you might be asking the wrong person, but
well, what are you doing that's
I,
helping you right now?
well, number one, I think, I want to pose the question to you at the end of this. I think number one for me is I stopped enjoying it and started punishing myself with the workouts.
Mm,
Now I'm enjoying it because now it's a dedicated time in the morning. I get to work out as long as I want, and I'm not worried about doing it all over again later because it did
sure.
shorten the morning because I had to save myself for that. So I actually train harder with the one workout. I enjoy it more. And I look forward to the fact that now in the afternoons, I'm learning something new every day. I always say try to learn something new every day. But if you're putting a workout in there and you're just watching YouTube videos, not really learning and applying it. So that's what happened to me. I started to see, well, I can edit video better and I can add these things to it, or I can just take a bike ride on the e-bike, or I can go to the beach and just sit there and ground myself in the sand. There's so many different things that I can do to address other categories of my fitness, of my health, of my wellness. I can write my wife a love letter. I can do
Yeah.
anything that's going to be more productive because what I just did earlier in the morning is already done. Why am I doing it again?
Yeah.
And this isn't every day, not a struggle at this point from December until probably even as it's more recent as like a week or two ago. Big struggle,
Sure.
big struggle. And also coming from you can make an excuse for anything. So I have to review an air bike. So I'll be right there with you with the air bike torture. I have to review an air bike. I have another piece of cardio. I have other stuff that's coming in. And I like to show organically me using the equipment during the workout to show people this is what I do. And plus, they like seeing me get blown up and laughing, trying to describe things as I'm breathing. So it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
But that used to be my second, yeah, that used to be my second workout too. Oh,
Sure.
I'm doing it for the business and I'm getting content, but I
Yeah.
can eliminate all that. That's what the morning's for. So that's what I changed up. But my question is too, because I think this might be the root of a lot of it too, Mike. Big Mike, sorry. Sorry.
Sir.
Why do you think people have such a visceral reaction to you're going to be working out for the rest of your life? And why do they have such an excited reaction about the 21-day fix, the 90-day workout, the 12-week, being a program creator? I want to create a program that I can advertise as being for a year, the 1-year program or 2-year program, and give everybody every tool to not get bored for a year or two.
Yeah.
But I've talked to business people in the fitness industry, and they're like, it'll never sell
Sure.
because it's too long of a time that people think they need to work out to
Yeah.
get where they want to get. And I'm like, he's
Yeah.
right, but that's a really screwed up way of thinking.
100% agree. And that's a much bigger topic than we have the time to talk about today. But like, I think to answer your question, just a quick answer to it is we're just so conditioned in that quick fix, and the culture that has been created is, hey, that 21 days is all you need to fix yourself, and you're going to have this quick fix, and it's a sales thing. And being in sales, like, the sales approach is nobody wants to buy a year-long program. That's a long time. That's a long commitment. People don't realize, like, they think that years of forever. And they just want a quick fix. Everybody wants quick fix. Everybody wants that dopamine hit of a quick fix that they get. And if they can just do something, if I can get the same results in 21 days that I can in a year, well, why would I commit to a year? Like there's a commitment issue. There's issues like that where we just don't work as hard. People on the whole, like they are so, I don't want to say we are so conditioned to want that, have everything at our fingertips all the time. And the culture has just been conditioned that way. So we assume everything should be that way. We assume in the medical world, the pharmaceuticals, like, give me a pill. I want to fix this. I should instantly be better. I fall into that. Everybody falls into that trap of like, okay, I just need to take this. If you get a cold, you take some NyQuil or Dayquil or something. I should be better. It should fix it. Right. And so everybody just wants this quick fix. And everybody's conditioned that they're going to get the quick fix because of things like social media and the internet and getting things real time and cell phones. And if before cell phones and things like that, you and I probably wouldn't even freaking have a relationship at all. We wouldn't be friends because we couldn't talk to each other. But now we talk to each other and we can text and we can do all these things and it's immediate. So people assume that their fitness is that way. And I think what they don't realize is that it took you 10, 20 years to get to the point where you are. It's not going to take 10 days to reverse 10 years of decline. Like you've got to put in, I'm not going to say it's going to take 10 years to reverse that 10 years, but it's going to take longer than 10 days. You can't just have a quick fix. And I think that's the thing that people just fall into this idea of like, yeah, I should be able to fix it. And then when it doesn't happen, when you don't get that immediate gratification, you fall off and then they fall into this trap. And then it's, the yo-yo dieting and the going on and off and workouts and consistency and things. But what in all aspects of life, and this is something that I've learned and I've known it, but knowing and doing is different things. And really over the last couple months, I've become incredibly consistent with my morning workouts. Very rarely have I missed one. I've maybe missed, maybe legitimately like 5 days where I didn't get up in the morning and work out over the last 4 or 5 months. And I am consistent with my nutrition. I'm consistent with the things that I'm doing every single day and I'm seeing results. And so I think people fall into that category of the consistency and then they just don't want to do it. We all have a tendency to be lazy sometimes, but when you make the commitment, you see the results, then yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but you asked the question.
I just wonder why people don't look at it and say, well, what happens on day 22 and after that? Like, what's my
Sure.
guide after that?
Sure.
I'm paying money, like what happens day 22?
Right. And I think it's how the programs are positioned. Like when it goes into the psychology to talk about the mental aspect of things. I think it gets into, from a sales perspective, I want to sell you a result because people want to buy a result. They don't care what the product is. They want to buy that result. And if I can sell you a result after 21 days and I can tell you that in 21 days, all your problems are going to be solved, then there's a result, right? Like, but I think you got to position things differently. And so like, not to go back to X&D 63, but for me, X&D 63 is a kickstart to lifelong health and wellness. Yes, you can get great results in 63 days, but it's 63 days for the rest of your life. Like it's not a quick 63 days and you're done. It's you do these 63 days, you develop your habits over the 63 days. And the goal here is that in 63 days time, you've learned a bunch of new habits. And now you carry those over for the rest of your life so that you can live healthier longer every single day.
I'm gonna kind of embarrass my wife and talk about how proud I am of her because we're trying to get them for the Valentine's Day episode. She said okay, but she's a little shy. But I think that'll be a fascinating, like couples who work out together at gyms, and maybe the experience of her making the call to turn the entire apartment into a gym. You know what I mean? Sure. It's a fun story, but she's been like, over the past however many years, has been trying but falling off. And the whole thing for a lot of people and what my wife at the time, before she changed her mindset was, it's just boring.
Mm,
Working out is boring, training is boring, it gets kind of repetitive. And I told her, well, if you want, but to do progression, it tends to be repetitive and boring at times because
mhm.
it's more of a skill that you're training for your muscles rather than just moving the weights. You
Sure.
have to just have a mind muscle connection, which is tough. And to her credit, when she decided, and I talked about off camera, and I think we talked about last episode, she she decided to like start documenting her fitness journey, not
Mm,
becoming any kind of influencer or anything, but just as somebody who now has made herself accountable by posting. She's done social media, I believe, the right way. She's using social media and YouTube content as a way to make sure that she sticks with it and progresses because now she's putting herself out there to a certain extent. And it
yeah.
makes me very proud because she it used to be like the day before I would tell her what we're going to do in the gym the next day or what I'm going to do and what do you want to do. Before I even get it out now, we go to lay down in bed. Yeah, 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7. So no
I
kids.
was going to
So
say,
that's the only difference. No kids. So she'll lay there and she'll be like, well, what do you want to do in the gym tomorrow? Do you want to go to the garage? Or sometimes we split it between that and the apartment gym to keep it fresh.
sure.
And I'm just so proud. Like last night, I'm just like smiling about it because I'm just like, this is awesome. Like
Yeah.
she's coming to me like, what do you have planned? I'm like, yeah, I haven't even thought about it yet.
That's awesome.
So it's
That's awesome.
awesome to see. And that's the stuff where it is tending, and people may fall off because they're not aware that it is supposed to be somewhat repetitive and it is supposed to be sometimes mundane going to the gym to get that
Sure.
work in. But if you know that the more I do these exercises or these workouts or these body parts, the more I eat right, the more I sleep right, the cumulative effect.
Hmm.
It's not that you're training, just like eating. You're not eating for the taste of the food, even though the taste of the food is, you can find good tasting, healthy food. It's the result, the fuel that
Sure.
the food gives you in the workout. It's not falling asleep because you're exhausted. It's going to sleep and getting to sleep because you have to be as well rested as possible for the workout the next day.
Sure. Sure.
Once she
Sure.
started thinking that, and once we started, me too, especially, started thinking about those three components, and if one of them is lacking or I'm not paying 100% attention to, it's going to screw the other two up, no doubt.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think you're right with with all of those. And I think it just boils down to the perspective that people have on the training and overtraining and excuses and nutrition and recovery. And if you can reframe your mind on all of it, that uh your perspective is, I'm going to do all of these things so that I can do I can play with my kids, so that I can go uh, hunting this weekend, so that I can go on a hike, so that I can go do all of this other stuff. Then it becomes the mental aspect of the training and the overtraining and the nutrition and all that isn't as hard to deal with, because now you have a reason that you are doing it and you've put perspective on it. And so, like, for me, what really shifted in my mind and has made me help me be more consistent is I put perspective on it. Like, if I'm not focused on my training and working out, and I'm not focused on my nutrition, and I'm not focused on recovery and being the best version of myself that I can be, then I'm not being the best version of the husband I can be, and I'm not being the best version of the father that I can be. And so when I really, really put that in my heart, it was like, okay, I'm not doing this for Mike, like, I'm doing this for my family so that I can be the best for them. And I think for anybody that's on this fitness journey, that's new, that's starting, and we're kind of getting off tangent a little bit from the overtraining conversation, but I think that perspective, if you can find a place to find a perspective on why you're doing the fitness stuff, then it will lessen the thoughts of, man, am I overtraining or pushing too hard? You're doing what you need to do to be the best version of yourself so that you can do X, whatever that might be for you. For me, it's so that I can play with my kids and I can do fun things and go on hikes and take them and do fun things. And so, yeah, I think people find that perspective. It will make all the thoughts and negative feelings and stuff around overtraining and training not as bad.
Well, I will say this. This is what got me into trouble, but the foundation I think is a positive one and solid. And in this world today that's crazy, super crazy, working out, nutrition, and even your sleep to some extent, all three of those factors, or just your fitness journey, is the one thing or the three elements within the one thing that you have absolute control over, and that you get, if not the actual number, as close to 100% out of it what you put into it. There's nothing in life that gives you those parameters. There's nothing in life that can give you absolute control over the results of the effort you put into it. And that's what I would tell people. Now, don't go as far as I did.
Sure.
Get yourself into trouble, because I had everything was out of control. So I double, triple, quadruple down on controlling and expanding my fitness journey. That's not the thing. But when you look at it, you're like, man, I can turn my body into anything I want. Just have to follow this, this, and this. I can do anything I want. I can make myself as healthy or unhealthy, that's the problem, as I want, applying this mindset each and every day and making it my lifestyle. And I guarantee everybody out there, if you get your health in order and you get your body feeling good and eventually looking better, it's going to affect positively other parts of your life.
Totally.
With business, meetings, if you're a salesperson, they're going to sense something different about you. And it's going to just like negatively, it's going to spread throughout every other part of your life. And I get emotional talking about this because I used to be somebody who made excuses about everything and blamed everybody else for every negative thing that happened.
Yeah.
And then when I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and this is 262 pound, right to center shirt and tie, me at the lowest point. But when I turned around and got sick and tired of blaming everybody else and started blaming myself for everything and became not only accountable, but hyper accountable.
Sure.
My entire life changed.
Yeah.
Maybe not that day, maybe not that year, maybe not in 5 years, but it changed me in such a way that carries me today and beyond. So just so you know, when you get your house in order that way, other things are going to change. And when you don't get your house in order, things are going to change.
Yeah, that's super powerful, dude. Like, and it's to that thing and taking responsibility for your life in all aspects of it will help you understand everything from a fitness, nutrition, recovery, really paying attention to who you are. I heard this one time. I don't remember who I heard it from, so I'm not taking any credit for it, but there's an integrity gap of who you are and who you think you should be and what you know is right and what you are actually doing. And if you can bridge that integrity gap and make that smaller so that when you take responsibility for your life and take responsibility for your health, your fitness, your nutrition, all of the areas of your life. Like if you take complete responsibility for that, that is when changes begin to happen and you dial in the consistency, and then you can be happier, be healthier. And then that translates into more confidence in everything that you do every single day. And then you're just going to live happier, healthier. You're going to show up better for people. You're going to show up better in your work. You're going to show up better for your spouse, your kids, all the things. It's that taking responsibility. And to bring it back to the overtraining conversation, like taking responsibility for your training and knowing if overtraining's too much, taking responsibility for the recovery aspect of it, the nutrition aspect of it, so that you don't have those issues that come into play because you're not being responsible for the whole scope and you're just focused on the one aspect.
Perfect. I don't know if we can add anything to that. I think that's our unintentional final words for this episode.
That's it. Show over.
We'll have a smoother way of taking us out. We'll add some music or something eventually. Get super produced. Hey, by the way, side note, housekeeping wise, I think we were using Ecamm Live when we tried it, but there was a lag. I think I had the resolution way too high for the
Mm,
streaming recording aspect. So we might be able to give it a shot. Maybe in a pre-production meeting next week, we'll give it a little, or during the week, we'll give it a little bit of a go and see how that works.
yeah,
Be a nice little thing to bring up articles and things to give people more of a visual thing on YouTube, especially when it comes to more scientific research and stuff that we want to
sure.
kind of reference. Uh, but eventually you'll do the intro. I think we'll try that
Eh.
on one of these
I
episodes.
might keep making you do it. You're the draw. So
How about if you just please stop? I'm gonna make a super cut of all these compliments that insult me at the same time for some reason. But I'm gonna let you take us out and talk about everything. By the way, the poll, do you prefer a home or garage gym from last week's episode? 0 votes, 0%,
what the heck?
0% for the garage gym. Oh, it's still a toss up.
Come on.
I know.
Participate with the poll.
Spotify gives us all this cool stuff that nobody uses. So, but that's cool.
Yeah, what the heck?
Hey,
Let us
people are
know.
still trying to find us. We're still,
Yeah.
hey, at least we're available. At least I did. They
Yes.
took out that squared symbol I screwed up and took it out of the search. So you can find us Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff. So, and
Yeah.
also I'll just give a quick note on this too. Both of our affiliate links at their bio.site links takes you to everything. You can support our content like that. We're going to avoid any ads. We didn't enable them on Anchor or Spotify or anything. We're going to keep it as ad free as possible, but you can support our content by using those links. And of course, subscribing to Big Mike's YouTube channel, as well as my own if you're watching us on video, audio wise. All those platforms are available in the description on the YouTube channel, as well as our highlighted Instagram stories. Now I'll let you take us.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. And I think that if you want to support, we would love your support. If you want to leave comments and questions and things like that, that more than anything is what we're here to do, is to help you live healthier every single day. That's the goal behind what we're doing. So leave a comment, ask us a question, shoot us an email, send us a DM on Instagram, whatever works. Find the links in the description, in the show notes, bio.site/Big Mike Behrens, bio.site/Stevie Richards Fitness. Is that right? Or Stevie Richards?
I have no idea.
Try both. Either one of them.
That's what you do when you have a link shortener. You're like, what is my spike?
Yeah. So,
by the way, my pod has been delivered. It's out here somewhere.
Ooh, nice.
Where it's at. Oh my god.
Check the channel in for future review of the yoga pod. It's going to be, I'm excited to hear the review of it. So,
I mean, while we're here on video, you take us out. I'm going to see if I can go grab, as I try to see, like, God, at least I have StevieRichardsFitness.com, I think, is then.
Yeah, you have that. I think it's bio.site/Stevie Richards. Either way, go look for Stevie Richards
Fitness.
There we go. That's what I thought. Bio.site
still has StevieRichards.com. I can't get it. So there's some dude in Iraq that got StevieRichards.com and selling me for like 25 grand. Like,
Oh,
dude, I'm not worth that much. See if it's out there. Hold on.
That's great. Well, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate all of you. Comment and ask questions. We would love to hear your feedback. Let us know if you like the content, what we're doing, how things are going. Stevie ran out to get his yoga pod, see if it's there, and bring it in because it just got delivered. Comment. We appreciate you all. Final thought on, oh, there it is. Pod 52 Athletics. Dig it. That's great. Man, that was quick. You ever move that fast? That was good.
Oh, God, I think I'll blow my back out on that.
I haven't given the final word yet. So now that you're back, I will say thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.